So today I am going to be making an election prediction between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Before I get into the prediction itself, I'd like to apologize for my extended absence from YouTube. Um, but I'm back now since I've got plenty of time on my hands with everything that's going on. So I'm going to start posting again. So with that said, let's just get right into the prediction. So I'm going to start by filling out the safe states for Trump and Biden. So we'll start with Trump here. There are a few states I'm going to leave blank to talk about, but for the most part, a lot of these are pretty predictable outcomes. I know that there are southern states that will be a lot narrower than they've been in the past, maybe narrower than they were in the 2018 midterms, um, but I still don't see those flipping, and there's not a lot of point in talking about them because even if the margin's narrower, we pretty much know the outcome. So for Donald Trump, I'm going to give him Texas, Missouri, and Indiana. Those are some states I don't think are necessarily going to be that competitive, but I left them blank for a second there just to, point out that maybe they could kind of be in play, but there would have to be a pretty serious turn of events for something like that to happen. And New Mexico is sort of the equivalent for the Democrats, probably not going to be in play that much. Um, I don't think Donald Trump's necessarily going to do a lot of campaigning there. He knows he's probably not going to win. And I don't know how much campaigning it would take for him to actually make that state close. It just seems like a waste. So New Mexico, probably a Biden state. I would say the same thing for Virginia. I could see it being a little closer than New Mexico. It's a state that's getting a lot bluer. It was pretty firmly in the Republicans category for a long time, even at the start of the 21st century. Bush won it, but Obama flipped it in 2008. So this is a state that is pretty much in the Democratic column now, although there was a bit of a contest when Clinton was there, and her running mate was from that state. But Biden is a lot more popular than Clinton, so I don't think he's going to have too much trouble winning Virginia. If it were, you know, a more polarizing candidate or a candidate that, well, actually, Biden's become somewhat polarizing too, but if it was a candidate that was just less popular, maybe you would see Virginia in play. But even with that said, in the last 4 years, the shift has continued. It was a firmly Democratic state. Tim Kaine um, won his Senate seat in 2018 pretty easily, so not too much contention there. So let's get into the actual, the swing states, the states that are really going to decide this election. So if we start off with, I guess we'll talk about the Rust Belt, but first I'll actually give Colorado to Biden, another state that maybe could be in play. It was something that was actually a fairly Republican state. Colorado was won by Bush, and but that was another state that Obama flipped, and since then it's pretty much been a Democratic state. But there is still, of course, Cory Gardner, a Republican senator, but he's almost certainly going to lose that Senate seat. But this isn't a Senate prediction, so I'll talk about that when I do another one of those. Um, so in terms of the Rust Belt, if we talk about that next, I would say Minnesota is a pretty secure state for the Democrats, and it was very close in 2016. I think it was Clinton won by I think half a percentage point, something like that. It was really narrow, but I don't see it being that slim again, um, especially since it's not Clinton and Donald Trump's popularity has dropped a lot. Biden would be a very good candidate for the Rust Belt. Minnesota is the most Democratic of those states, so I see that being in the Biden camp. I'll also put Nevada under the Biden category. I think, again, like Colorado and Virginia, it's shifted to the left. Um, so the Democrats flipped a Senate seat in 2018 there, so it should be um, a pretty safe state. Well, it's not a safe state, but it should be a pretty easy win for Biden. I don't think he'll have to worry too much about Nevada. Um, in terms of going back to the Rust Belt, though, Michigan would be a state that would be very important. Um, so I would say Biden probably wins Michigan. Um, again, and it would be very close, probably closer than Minnesota. And but I don't think it would be as close as Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. These two states are very in the middle, and I'll talk about them. But Michigan, I think, would definitely be a Biden state. Um, I'm gonna go away from the Rust Belt for a minute here. If we talk about Maine, I do see at large going to Biden, as well as the first district, which I already had as a safe Biden state. So I do think that Biden would pretty easily win that one. Um, it could be in play a little bit, but I think in general it would be a fairly easy Biden win. The second district in Maine would be a lot closer. I'm not 100% sure. I'll get back to that one. I'm going to go down south here. I do think Trump will win North Carolina and Georgia and Ohio. And these are states that can be close. Well, you know what? Actually, I'll leave Ohio blank for now. If it were another candidate, I think any of the other candidates, and I would have filled Ohio in. But considering that this is Biden, that could maybe be a little more in play. North Carolina could be somewhat close. I still think it's a Trump state. Georgia, kind of the same thing, maybe even a little bit more Republican. These states in the Southeast corridor are getting closer. They're getting bluer, but they're probably still not going to be going for Biden. Florida, we'll talk about, but the other two, I don't see. And Ohio, we'll get back to. So Arizona is tough. I'm actually not totally sure who I want to give Arizona to because it is definitely becoming a much more democratic state. They won the Senate race in 2018. Martha McSally in the is up for re-election. It's the special election, and she is not very popular. We could definitely see a second Democratic senator in Arizona, and we could definitely see Biden winning the state. So I'm not sure 100% about Arizona, but I think I'll keep it for now in the Trump category. Just given where things are, it could be close. It really could go either way. But for now, I'll leave it with Trump. Nebraska, same thing. Although that's not as close as Arizona. I left that blank, but really Trump's probably going to win. It would sort of take a miracle for Biden to win that. Um, let's do Pennsylvania next. I think Pennsylvania could be um, a Biden or a Trump state, really. Um, it's a tough one. I'll give it to Biden. He's just a lot more popular right now in terms of you know approval ratings for Trump are very low, and so I think Biden would win, but it would be very close. Wisconsin's another very close one, and in terms of the Senate races, like I said, Arizona is getting Democratic. Wisconsin's really trending to the middle. Wisconsin, it was thought to be sort of a given for Hillary Clinton, but she didn't win Wisconsin, obviously, because if she had, Donald Trump probably couldn't have won the election. I mean, mathematically, he would have needed Michigan and Pennsylvania, but you get what I'm saying. Wisconsin is probably the most conservative of these four Rust Belt states here. Um, so I will give it to Biden because I just think he's a better candidate and he's a lot more popular right now, even with everything that's going on. Um, but it would be very, very close. I also will give him New Hampshire. In terms of the Senate, Jeanne Shaheen there is very popular. That's almost a given that she's going to win. So I would give Biden New Hampshire. And these last few states could really go either way. At this point, of course, we've given Biden the win. He's at 278. So if I don't give him another state, he would need Wisconsin because otherwise that would be 268 and he wouldn't be there yet. So um, I'll give Biden Maine. Obviously, Clinton did lose the second district there, but I will give it to Biden. Um, it probably could go for Trump, but I think Biden would hang on. And then as for these other ones, Iowa actually Trump won by a pretty significant margin in 2016. Joni Ernst is very unpopular in terms of the Senate race, but it'll be very competitive. But I do think Trump is just gonna get that edge. And then Ohio. Ohio, I'm torn on who to give Ohio to, but I think I'll give Trump the win. Florida really could go either way at this point. It doesn't really matter who I give it to because one of them is Biden's already won, so it doesn't really matter who I give Florida to. But um, I don't know. Trump is really unpopular right now, so for now, I'll give it to Biden. But you know, in a few weeks or months, we could see things completely different. This map could be totally different. So let me know what you think. And that's about it. So